We are now less than 24 hours away from Super Tuesday. Nearly 600 delegates up for grabs in 13 Republican contests, and the stakes could not be higher for the 5 Republican White House contenders left in the ring. Now, with some predicting a Super Tuesday sweep for Donald Trump. A new national poll showing that nearly half of Republican voters, 49%, now backing the Donald, followed by Marco Rubio way back at 16% and Ted Cruz at 15%. But in Texas, whose 155 delegates are the biggest prize tomorrow, a new NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows that Ted Cruz leading by 13 points in his home state. Now, all this as the personal attacks between Trump and Rubio, well, they've hit a new low, rarely seen in presidential politics. Listen.
Well, I think he's a lightweight. He couldn't get elected dog catcher. If he goes back to Florida, he's going to lose big league. I call him Little Marco. That's what he is. He's Little Marco.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them. You can't trust them.
And I see him starting to sweat like I have never seen anything like it. Thank God he has really large ears, the biggest ears I've ever seen, because they were protecting him.
He says that I'm sweating all the time. It's hot in here. Am I sweating now? No. All right. He doesn't sweat. He doesn't sweat because his pores are clogged from the spray tan that he uses. Donald is not going to make America great. He's going to make America orange.
So I'm looking at Little Marco and I say, man, there's something happening with him. And he's like melting. I think he's going to faint.
He got deferments from the Army. He didn't serve in Vietnam. He didn't volunteer, and he got deferments because he had injuries from squash.
We don't need a guy who's sweating and scared, and I never saw anything like it. Little Marco Rubio. A total featherweight.
He's making fun of me for wearing makeup. So how can it be? How can a person with the worst spray tan in America attack me? He should sue whoever did that to his face. That's what he should be suing.
Wow. And who says three's a crowd? Ted Cruz, while maybe not quite as personal, well, he's also getting his licks in at Trump. Listen.
Donald Trump had a $1 million court judgment against him for hiring illegal immigrants to build Trump Tower. He put his name on it. Maybe it should say underneath, built by illegal immigrants.
There have been multiple media reports about Donald's business dealings with the mob, with the mafia. Maybe his taxes show those business dealings are a lot more extensive than has been reported. For example, S&A Construction, which was owned by Fat Tony Salerno, who is a mobster who is in jail. It is owned by 2 of the major New York crime families. And that has been reported in multiple media outlets.
What a weekend in presidential politics. Britt Hume, you've covered so many presidential elections. Did you ever think you'd see the day where you'd be talking about spray tans and small hands?
I gotta tell you, I've never seen anything like it. In fact, one of the reasons I was hoping to be here today was so you all could tell me what the hell is going on. Sure, I don't know.
You don't know?
Never seen anything like this. Never seen anything compared. Well, there is one thing that's worth thinking about, and that is when you see Trump under attack like this from his fellow Republicans, and you remember what happened in 2012. Mitt Romney's coming along, headed toward the nomination, and Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry started the whole bit about him being a vulture capitalist and taking advantage of the little guy and not caring about people like you and me, right? That stuck, and it was picked up by the Democrats, but the way it had been paid for them by his fellow Republicans, and that stain on him never came off, and I think played an important role in his losing the election. Now you see with Trump and the things they're talking about with him, which are, in my opinion, far more damaging than what was said about Mitt Romney. You get an idea what a target-rich environment Trump is and what an opposition party operating at full bore during a general election season can do. And I think it makes his prospects as a general election candidate very dim.
Britt, is it embarrassing for the Republican Party as a whole to have this back and forth? I mean, it's tough to watch them.
Well, no, it isn't tough to watch. It's kind of fun to watch But not in a way that...
Not if you're a Republican
well, no,
and you want to win.
Well, and not in a way that makes you think these are the candidates that I want, among whom I will be happy to pick for president, because it's so low rent and undignified and unpresidential. And Trump takes to it naturally, and his supporters seem to love it. But Trump has got real weaknesses as a general election candidate, and this only serves to further that.
Will it work, Harris? I mean, a lot of people think too little, too late.
So two things. This is like a Yo Mama contest with steroids. I mean, it just gets nastier and nastier. Seriously, it's like Yo Mama. That's what
no Yo Mama. No Yo Mama.
But, you know, when you watch something like this, the big question in my mind is, does any of this have stickiness to the people who were throwing the mud? Because I have to tell you, what we're seeing, particularly from Marco Rubio, is such a departure from the person that we saw at the beginning of the campaign. It's almost like a split personality thing. And so his supporters may be questioning who they're really looking at, even more so than Trump. Trump hasn't really changed. You either like him or you hate him. It would seem there are not a lot of people in the middle. But for Donald Trump, you've got the court case that's coming up with the Trump University. You got a lot of stuff that Democrats don't really need the Republicans' help. So then you have to start to ask, do you have to get that nasty within the Republican Party? Maybe you do, because where's Dr. Ben Carson? Where's John Kasich? They're on that higher road, but it's like I always say, it's not crowded on the high road.
Yeah, but Donald Trump, he hasn't taken the high road, and no one has had an effective attack against him. And I think...
Hello? Is that your phone?
Donald, is that you? I'm so sorry. I was not attacking you.
Oh, it's Brit.
It is.
It's not your spray tan appointment calling to confirm, is it, Mr. Hume? Oh. That's all natural, right? No one can criticize you on that.
But I will say this, you know, people who feel that their candidates have been attacked unfairly by Donald Trump, who've had flat-footed responses, this is the first time where someone has had a response that is effective and natural, and he's actually found a few new ways to attack Donald Trump. To your point, I think Mitt Romney was so wounded because he was the pristine candidate on a white horse, and they threw paint on him, and it stained him to the point where he was beyond repair. Donald Trump is nasty and dirty to begin with, and a lot of the insults are superficial, and I don't think they're going to deeply wound him. I think one of the things that Marco Rubio has used, which has been age. You know, he said that Donald Trump needed a full-length mirror at a debate to make sure he hadn't wet his pants. I think that is a new line that people haven't taken.
I don't know what that meant. Yeah, I don't think any of it sticks to Donald Trump at all. I mean, I think Marco Rubio has gotten a new comedy writer who is darn good. I mean, a lot of those jokes were quite funny. People out there watching it are definitely entertained. But what struck me about the whole segment and everything we showed up front was that new poll out of CNN. 49% of Republicans for Trump, a full 33 points ahead of the nearest competitor. I mean, when you hear people doing gyrations trying to figure out how someone else is going to take the nomination, it's like diet math. I'm going to have 2 brownies this morning, but that carrot that I'm having for dinner is going to make the whole thing go away. I just don't know how you close that gap.
Wow. Britt, every time they go after him, I mean, you see the establishment upping the ante again. A lot of people saying, great, Marco Rubio, you're finally taking on Trump in a language that he understands. I think it's too late, but does it help Donald Trump when he gets attacked like this?
I don't think it can possibly help him. I mean, you can say that the superficial stuff about, you know, his orange hair or his orange skin or whatever might make people look at this supposedly big, strong, invincible guy as something other than that, as a fit subject for ridicule. And he's kind of a bully. And bullies can't stand ridicule, and his reaction to it so far hasn't been, in my opinion, very effective. But some of the things that are being raised against him, the screwing of the little guy in bankruptcies, which is real, possible mafia ties, which are not that's not a superficial thing. Hiring of illegal aliens is another. And he may be able to explain them to the satisfaction of many of his supporters whose political philosophy is whatever Donald Trump does, I like. That's about the extent of it. And in that sense, he won't be vulnerable. But he is not yet a majority candidate in the Republican Party as we look to the primary states coming up. So there's some vulnerabilities there for sure. The question for Rubio and the others is, when they hit him, does it help them, or does it maybe hurt Trump without helping those candidates? For example, look, Chris Christie takes on Marco Rubio very effectively in the debate in New Hampshire, and Rubio looked terrible, right? And next thing you know, Chris Christie's out of the race. So he did some damage, but he didn't help himself. That's always the problem with attack politics. Is it's possible to have hurt the other person, the person you're attacking, what's hard to do is to look good doing it.
Well, the mud sticks to the person who's doing the attacking, which is what I said.
That's right.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, through that New York Times, which was sourced outside of Fox News, so I can't independently confirm their sources. But Mitch McConnell, according to the New York Times, is saying that they will try to split this vote with Donald Trump, and basically a warning that Democrats have to kind of get together and get Donald Trump out of the race. Your quick thoughts on that?
Well, look at it this way. What are they afraid of? What are these Republican leaders who are not...
I don't know. What are they afraid of?
Well, what they're afraid of is Trump as a general election candidate, losing the White House, losing the Senate, and possibly, if it's a bad enough landslide against them, losing the House. That's what they're afraid of.
At this rate, they're likely to hand it to Hillary Clinton if this keeps up the way it's going.
That's the way it looks right now, for sure.
Exactly.
And, you know, and Trump, I mean, I think the damage to Trump is just beginning, and that doesn't mean he won't win the nomination.
Okay.
But it could very well mean he doesn't win the general.
Well, we will see.